The live button is lit. What's up, folks? It's Jason.
No. It's lit. Live button is not the only thing that's lit.
Episode number 191. Today's topic is keeping the WordPress spark alive after 13 years. Let's go around the room real quick and get everyone introduced. Now, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I'm the one that has no label. Can't get the Google Toolbox to work, but that's okay. I'll get it next time. My name is Nile Flores. I run blondish.net. So lots of things that I do, aside from WordPress design and development, is I blog about blogging, WordPress, social media, SEO, and web design. So I actually help people with their websites and everything. I've been doing this for years, for about 15 years almost. So that's a little bit about me. You can follow me on Twitter on blondish.net. Just say hi, because there's so many people following me.
Nice.
Thumbs up.
How about you, Robert?
I'm Robert Gillmer. I'm with Shiny9 Web Design. I build stuff with WordPress. Been using it since 2010, just about when 3.0 came out. So I've got 6 years under my belt with WordPress.
Nice.
It's approaching long term.
On the show. What about you, Russ?
I'm Russ. I run WordPress Las Vegas WordCamp, blah, blah, blah. And I do some stuff with supporting people on WordPress.
And you run while on your desk, apparently, because that's what it looks like you're doing. He's like, I run WordPress.
I'm at a standing desk. Yes, I exercise all day long.
Sweet. What about you, Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Wefald. I'm the production manager at Zeek Interactive. I also lead the OC WordPress design meetup, which is tonight here at Zeek in Huntington Beach. And I've been using WordPress since I felt like Monica on Silicon Valley, when she didn't quite get Slack. When I first saw WordPress, I was like, but movable type.
That movable type, though.
Remember that?
What is happening in this day?
When we were, to be young.
What about you, Say?
I need to not pay attention to my phone. Okay, I'm Say Reed. I make WordPress, love WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress, at Say Reed Media on all the things. I've been using WordPress since 2007. We go way back. We've had some ups and downs, mostly ups. Sometimes ups outnumber the downs. 10 points if anyone can tweet me with where that's from.
What about you, Steve? Save us.
Save us, please.
I swear. I am Steve Zehngut. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress meetup. Apparently, I'm here to save you.
Today's going to be a great day.
I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at jasontucker.us, and I tweet over Jason Tucker. I also wanted to do a quick announcement. We started a show a little while ago called WP Show and Tell. If you have something that you built in WordPress, we would love to have you on the show and kind of do a little 15-minute demonstration on what the thing is, how it works, and what you can do with it. We'd appreciate it. Go over to WPwatercooler.com/WPShowandTell, and you can go sign up over there.
You want to have them on the show so they can tell.
Show and tell, yeah. It does both of those things.
On the show, you tell. I get it.
It's like kindergarten, you know. It's like I built this thing, and here's how to use it. So go check it out.
If that's like kindergarten, then this show is like preschool.
I think you should probably not say adult show and tell, because that sounds different.
That sounds
that's
like
what happens over on the Dradcast.
Right, with the bar tricks and all.
adult show and tell kind of sound. Yeah, no, I was gonna make a YouTube Red joke, but hey.
Well, I'm just like Sarah, where I used movable type way back in the day. I also used LiveJournal way back in the day as well, and having to port over content from movable type over to LiveJournal, and then from LiveJournal over to WordPress. So I was using WordPress for quite a while as well. How about you guys?
WordPress loves me more. No, just kidding. Sorry. I was trying to make it like a thing. I don't know. What was the question?
The question was, how did you get into the WordPress space?
Yeah.
I don't know. Kicking and screaming.
I thought that I was better than all of the, CMS things. So when I went back to school to learn PHP, and everyone was all about like, oh, well, you can always make your own custom CMS, and then you can charge clients more and all of that. But then I moved here, and I was like, I'm not at a level where I can create my own CMSs, and there's this meetup group that talks about WordPress. Maybe I'll show up there. And clearly that was the worst mistake of my life, because now I work there.
So just like Sarah, I started doing stuff with bands, and I started building band MySpace layouts. And then I was using the MySpace blog to be like, oh, I can't figure this out. And a buddy got me hooked on WordPress, where I would put my thoughts. And I've been using WordPress ever since.
Hooked on WordPress. Is that what our problem is?
It was just like phonics, except I could actually spell WordPress.
It works for him.
So I built my first WordPress site in December of 2006.
Oh, you beat me.
So a client called me and said, we need you to take over this project, and it's in WordPress, and do you do that? I said, oh, yeah, absolutely. I do that. Of course.
Just to be clear, Steve means BC. December 2006 BC.
It's an old joke for any of you listening and paying attention.
Emphasis on old.
So I worked for an IT company that kept getting approached to build websites, and my boss just kind of said, sit down, figure out the best choice to go. It was between WordPress and Joomla, and boy, I'm glad we chose WordPress.
Oh.
Boy, are you.
Do you ever think about how your life would have been different, Robert?
He'd be on the Joomla cooler.
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, before I moved here, I was subscribed to a bunch of like Joomla newsletter things about like thinking like, oh, this Joomla thing is going to revolutionize the way I make websites.
And you're like, unsubscribe, unsubscribe, unsubscribe.
That was refreshing because I moved to California 5 years ago yesterday. So
we're so glad to have you. Aww.
And I started going to to meetups at Steve's office right around then.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
In your meetup.com bio, I was looking at that today. Actually, still says that you just arrived here and that you are trying to find people to hang out with that do WordPressy stuff.
Oh,
and
wow.
all this stuff. So you may want to do a quick little update there.
Yeah, I'm gonna update that too. I'm not looking to meet anybody because I'm grumpy.
You were always grumpy.
Sarah speaks in geologic
hashtag you manifested that. So I think part of this is
Nile. Nile, when did you get into WordPress?
So I started in manually blogging back in December 2001, and then I got into B2 Cafe Log because my friends were doing it, and it was a lot easier. Manually blogging is actually where you're creating all your blog posts in HTML, and there was a comment script called Halo Scan, which basically did the same pop-up comments that B2 did in the early days of WordPress, where you click on it, it would show the comments, you would get a comment form, and the comments would show up on that pop-up. And so that was the early days, that was B2 Cafe Log, very early days of WordPress. So basically I was the person that kind of hacked my D2 core, and when I went over to WordPress, as soon as it was available on beta, I had to clean everything up, and from then on, I didn't hack my core anymore, which is like a big no-no. I got like the big foot in the mouth from Mike Little when I tried to put a tutorial out there a long time ago about how to move your website over from B2 Cafe Log to WordPress.
So we've heard other CMSs mentioned here.
Wait, you call over to Nile, but don't call to me. That was happening.
I thought you already spoke on when you got into it. You weren't sure, so
you spoke on that and spoke on some other stuff.
I know exactly when I started using it for my bookstore's website when Open first opened. Actually, not when Open first opened, but when after Open opened. That's what I was using it for. Small business websites. Hey, still doing that same thing right now today. Okay, fine, go.
The bookstore was called Open, which was also opened as well.
So I heard
when it closed.
I heard Joomla mentioned. What other content management systems did you all try before moving to WordPress?
We're not supposed to be talking about the past, you guys.
It's a progression.
Yeah.
I want to talk about now.
I played with Movable Type.
Oh yeah, me too. I love Movable Type. It was
Type,
fun.
yeah. I used Mambo. Anybody use Mambo?
I did.
That.
2004. I built my wedding website using Mambo, and I hated it. It was awful. It reminded me of like those bulletin board systems, like was it BB, a whole bunch of those ones.
V-Bulletin. V-Bulletin.
Oh,
Oh my God.
It reminded me of that. It was just like they were just so awful.
So the point is that WordPress, like us all apparently, is old now, and just turned 13. Okay. It has now been a software that has been out for 13 years. So
it's 6 months older, 6 months younger than my son. So.
6 months younger than your son.
That's a good comparison.
I can't do that math. Is that bad that I can't do that math?
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And he's a WordPress user too.
So the basically the idea is after 13 years, right? Like you've been using it this whole time, right, Nile?
Yes.
And Steve, you've been using it, since BC, obviously. So with all of this extensive experience, I think that we are all in what one might call a long-term relationship with WordPress. Is that a fair assessment? A committed long-term relationship? I know you don't understand what that means, Steve.
Oh, that's not fair.
I've been saving this joke since yesterday. Come on, we had to get there.
You should have kept saying
Yeah,
it.
but
Hey,
you can't tell
Jill,
it
look at the
anymore.
time.
The joke no longer applies, though.
I know.
Move
but I wanted
move
to
along.
anyway.
So do we consider that a long distance relationship since it's typically hosted in the cloud?
It is long distance. Well, some of it is long distance because you have to keep checking in at different WordCamps, so you got to make hookups
So
at different places, rendezvous.
Since it's with WordPress, is it an open relationship?
What?
Took us
It is
12
an open
minutes
relationship
to get there.
because I
Longer than I
dabble.
thought.
I dabble a little bit with Squarespace, what I mean? But we have an open relationship because, like you said, it's cool. The point is, though, so after all this time, how do we keep it interesting? How do we avoid being burnt out on this lovely little piece of CMS?
Wow.
I would say part of it's just learning all the new stuff, because when I got involved, that was just when custom post types came out, and they were the brand new thing, and it was going to revolutionize everything. And now that's all that. Now that's common. 6 years from now, the REST API is going to be old hat. It's going to be just something everybody knows. So the way to keep it fresh is just to keep learning all these new technologies as they come out.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but I think seeing what other people are doing and realizing that you can do other things with WordPress besides what WordPress was meant to be used for, I think that kind of keeps that passion going. Seeing, I didn't know you could build a video game with WordPress. That's pretty cool,
Wait, expound upon that. Who's building video games with WordPress?
So Josh Strebel did a thing in 2012 about the many faces of WordPress, and he had a website that was using custom post types to build trees and stuff on a homepage, and it was like a video game.
Is he?
That's still up? I want to see that.
Is he porting like a hypercard stack from way back in the day, and now he's making it into a WordPress site?
Oh my God, hypercards!
We're going to rebuild Mist in WordPress.
Challenge
That game was so good. That game was so good.
Mist was super card, to be clear.
Oh my God, I want to play Myst now. I really played that game.
Oh my God.
Dated.
That's how you keep it fresh, is doing video games in WordPress now.
Well, I mean, keep it fresh. That was 2012. Has no one done anything interesting in WordPress since 2012?
Well,
We're done now.
But I mean, in 2012, real estate websites were just starting to become like a huge thing, and taking custom post type data and putting them on a Google map wasn't like all there. I think seeing that progression is one of the things that keeps my spark alive, is saying, I didn't know that we can keep doing this and keep doing it in more interesting ways to advance.
I don't know. I think we're going to start. I think doing more with mobile is really what's going to help push us forward. I mean, here at Zeek, we use WordPress as the CMS that powers every single one of our mobile apps.
But do you guys think at some point here we're going to end up where like WordPress was the kind of the driving force for the web part of it, and now you're using just like this engine, but you're not using the car anymore. You're just using the engine part of it. Like, you know, you're bolting on your apps to it, and if, you know, slowly but surely we start seeing a lot of stuff, especially like in the Android space, you start seeing a lot of things that are happening with taking parts of a app and bringing it in. Well, what about, like, you know, that driving piece that's behind there? What's going to happen to, you know, the web interface to WordPress, and is the web interface going to go away at some point?
Well, I think that's a big part of the REST API, is kind of being able to separate those two. So to have WordPress powering the back-end end of stuff, and then maybe having some kind of Node.js or whatever powering the front-end part of it.
I think.
Yeah, I think we're really at a crux. We're at a. Go ahead, Steve.
I think the REST API just further exposes what has been WordPress for years, right? The front end and the back end are decoupled. So if you think about it like that, the back end where you manage the content is its own engine, I think, as Say or Sarah put it, right? So that is one piece of WordPress. The web, the front end, is just a view into that content, right? So you can think of mobile as a new view into that content, right? So any of these new things that come out are really just accessing that same content. And for me, that's really the power of WordPress, is our clients or anybody has the power to manage their content separate from what the presentation layer is.
I guess what I'm saying is that, like, we've been spending a lot of time building themes, building plugins, building all this stuff that's very presentation layer type stuff that's going on. And then you have all these people that have these really great skills for doing that, but then what ends up happening is we're like, you know what? We're just going to go with an app, and if you don't know how to program, you know, iOS using, you know, Objective-C or whatever, you're kind of screwed. And you're like, well, what about the things that I've built using WordPress? You know, is that no longer applicable, or what?
WordPress is still the container for the content, right? And that's always going to be, right? Because of the reach of WordPress and how much of the internet already runs on WordPress, that's not going to go away anytime soon. That's not going to change. So that content is still going to sit there inside of the WordPress database. It's how we access it that's going to change.
Is that then what makes WordPress WordPress? Is really, I mean, and that's what I've always like told my clients. The power of WordPress is in the database. But is that like then? That's the core. That's what we're really getting at, because it really is about your content and a content management system. So as long as your content is there and accessible, it's still WordPress without, even if it doesn't have an admin. Yeah.
Well, the WordPress would still have the admin. It's just the front end.
I mean,
it's this conscious decoupling of the back end from the theme.
No, but it is a good way to think about it, right? So all of that data structure, that database, is out on 25% of all the websites that are out there. That structure exists, right? So that's become a very common schema that's sitting out there. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little technical, but the more apps that can connect into that, I'm getting caught up in my own words. That's where the future is.
So are we saying
Sarah's right on? It's mobile.
So were you saying that at some point here we're going to have like this little PHP file that you're going to run? It's going to install the database for WordPress, and you can have the option of having the front end and the back end. Or, you know what I mean? Like where? At what point do we end up with just like a skeleton that we're working with, which would be the schema of the database, and that's it?
We have that now.
I think that's what Roy Sivan was working on with Backpress, right?
Right. Exactly. But it's like, at what point is it no longer WordPress? You know? That's
interesting, actually. Is you get so distilled down so that it is just that database, you know?
I think you have to define. I think your question could be interpreted a couple of different ways, Jason. I think you have to define what WordPress is, right? Is WordPress the whole system? Is it the database? Is it the content management system?
Is an idea.
Well, you guys have to. You guys forget that the mission.
I think it's a jump to conclusions, Matt.
Niall, say that again real quick. We got.
You guys to forget that the mission of WordPress is to democratize publishing. Aaron Dorban actually did a very nice keynote here in St. Louis about WordPress. In order to understand WordPress now and where it's going, you must understand why and what drives it. And that is the mission in general. So regardless of where WordPress goes in the future, as long as it is accomplishing that mission, it will be WordPress. So
it's interesting. I think that the recent split on the .com and the .org showed some signs of trouble in paradise. I had a client just last week who did the thing where they didn't realize they were supposed to log into their own site, so they logged into the WordPress.com site, and they were like, "It looks totally different," and they were so beyond confused. So oh my. Choo choo, baby.
Somebody's got a sound effects pack going today.
Yeah, birds and things. But anyway, so they've already kind of decoupled in a way from that back end, and so we've talked about this a few times that we're just really going to start seeing all these different interfaces with the REST API. So it's like, you know, after 13 years, how do you then stay connected to which part is the core part of WordPress? Yes, it'll all be WordPress because it's this idea of democratizing publishing, but you know, it's becoming bigger than that is the point. Now you're talking about all this JavaScript, and it's not just PHP. So it's really, you know, to do a full-fledged, large-scale WordPress site, you can't so much just do that with one person anymore. It's gotten to the you know, unless you're like really are a true unicorn and you can do all of the different things. But I think it's getting bigger in that respect because, you know, you've got these node interfaces and you've got all this stuff happening that makes it much more complicated.
So are you saying that after 13 years we're seeing a conscious decoupling?
Yes. it's like Gwyneth and Chris, and it's all goopy.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, this is the way you keep the spark alive, is by having conversations like this. 13 years later, we're debating all this kind of stuff.
It's like, let's talk about us, WordPress. Let's talk about where we're going.
It's not you, WordPress. It's me.
But here's the thing. This is, you know, I've been doing this a long time, and I've seen technologies come and go, and this is the longest stretch I've seen in a piece of technology that I've worked in, right? I worked in Director, I worked in Flash, I worked in several JavaScript libraries, right? They come and go fast. 13 years is a long time for a technology to stay relevant, and that's pretty cool.
But Steve, really, you could have taken Flash and you could have, or Director, or any of these things, and have tied it into WordPress at one point and just been like, you know what? I don't want to build this interface using HTML. I'm just going to build it using Flash, and the whole thing could have been powered by Flash.
Right.
And it would actually have usable, you know, restaurant websites that you could have gone to and seen like updated menus and stuff.
You're absolutely right, but then Apple killed Flash.
Right, exactly.
Right. Your plan would be perfect. What for this iPhone thing?
Yes.
Yep. So I guess that's the thing.
That's
It's like, you know, the technology's kind of the technology's changing, but then you still have this very versatile, you know, back-end interface that WordPress runs on. That you can still bolt new things onto it, right?
The presentation layers are changing.
Yeah.
That's what's changing.
So it's
And
like
that's
WordPress
exciting.
is getting a makeover. They're like really working on themselves, and they're like taking up, like WordPress is like taking up yoga and like really getting into Zen. But you got to connect on that core level still, you know, and grow together. I think it's really key.
So we need to start doing yoga.
I love this analogy. I will not let it go.
Please do.
Even though you should.
No, I won't. 6 more minutes of this analogy, and I will hold it tightly.
And that's the big thing as well, keeping the spark alive, is the community, I think. We haven't talked about that yet, but the meetups and the WordPresses and meeting new people and learning what they're doing with WordPress and learning what you can do with WordPress and bragging, you know.
Which also makes like divorcing WordPress really difficult. Let's say you wanted to totally ditch WordPress altogether, right? You're like, I'm done with this. I really like Squarespace. I'm kind of tired of doing this whole custom post type thing, whatever. I'm just going to do something else.
Sacrilege.
Come on. What I'm saying is that you are so close to the friends of WordPress that you almost don't want to leave WordPress because you're going to miss all the friends.
It's like a lifestyle. WordPress is like a lifestyle, and you're like,
WordPress is gonna like take his friend or his or her friend and run, and you're gonna be like, okay, I don't have any more friends because
Squarespace,
Jason, I know
doesn't have
I know you were half joking and half not, but is it really, I'm going to leave WordPress and go over to Squarespace? Is that,
No.
That's not where I graduate.
Wait, but no, but I know
Mambo
that
or Joomla or Drupal.
it depends on where your clients are, because, and this is something I've talked about on the show, I have had to work with clients on Squarespace. I've moved some people off of WordPress onto Squarespace, and I honestly, I feel like I'm cheating. Like, it's a weird feeling. I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Like, I'm like,
you're going to lose all your friends.
The thing is,
all my friends, everyone's going to be mad at me. Like,
well, I mean, the thing that we that we've discussed and that is important to keep in mind is that WordPress, or at least the .org flavor of it, is very difficult to keep up. So if you're not a technical person, it's nearly impossible to keep it up to date and not hacked on your own.
Absolutely.
So for those people who are non-technical, Squarespace is a great idea. And like say, I've moved people over to Squarespace a few times myself.
We're hussies. We're just hussies.
But like for the lines of work that that we are collectively in, it doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, even if you want to keep people on a CMS, I wouldn't move them to I'd move them to Anchor CSS or CMS before I moved them over to like Drupal or something. Just because.
No one said anything about Drupal. We're not like degrading ourselves.
We're talking about moving people from off of WordPress to something else, and I would move them to another CMS before I move them to Wix or Squarespace ever.
Well, no one should ever move anything to Wix.
But if somebody has trouble keeping up WordPress.org, like they're not going to be able to keep up Drupal.
That's my point. So I'd move them to something like Anchor CSS or CMS or maybe even Ghost, where
you guys are talking about two different kinds of clients, right? Right. Russ is talking about a client that he's going to continue to manage. Sarah's talking about a DIYer. It's not apples and oranges. I just wanted to settle. I wanted to settle that real quick.
WordPress has the ability to have. It's so fluid. Everyone's got a different relationship with it. It's not, some people just, float on the builder side, and I know a ton of designers who just make WordPress sites, but they do it all through the builders. And then there's people like Steve, who's consciously decoupled from the front end and all mobile. And there's all these different ways of being with WordPress, and I think really that's the cool thing. Like you were saying, Steve, this software has been around for 13 years. We're all still using it. It's still active. It's still developing. It's still growing. It has a future in front of it that's actually almost more exciting than its past. And I think that is the makings of a really great long-term relationship, And as long as we stay connected to it and stay growing as well, growing our skill sets, we can grow with it and stay together.
Let me ask this, and maybe this is a topic for another discussion another week. Why Squarespace, why Wix, and why not WordPress.com? Why not keep them in the family, as it were?
Prettier designs.
WordPress.com has jumped the shark. Anyone wants to have a conversation about that, we can have a conversation about it. But
192.
Pretty.
We'll just call it jumping the shark.
Well, for me, it comes down to design. If WordPress.com had themes that looked like Squarespace's, then I think it would be able to compete on that level, but it doesn't.
Okay. So until Beaver Builder or Visual Composer or one of those things,
WordPress.com in this case.
So until one of those things comes into play on WordPress.com, I think you're not going to see big types of sites like that built on WordPress.com.
All right, fair enough.
So we'll see you Wednesday on the Squarespace Cooler.
I will be admitted to my transgressions here. That's all.
That's good, because then it'll be the first advertisement will be a WordPress.com advertisement on the Squarespace Cooler.
And the Friends of WordPress will offer absolution for
Well, folks, on that note, we're going to end up about 30 seconds early. So make sure you go to our website at WPwatercooler.com and click on the links there to subscribe and like and all that stuff. If you like this particular video, feel free to leave a comment. I'd appreciate it. You can also click on the thumbs up button. Thank you very much, all you guys, for being on the show today. You have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Keep the spark alive.